through you being on Fox News, you've opened up so much. We've seen a different side of you that we never saw when you were a wrestler. When that first started and you first got that job, were you worried at all that taking a political side by being on Fox News Channel would alienate other people?
Terrified, terrified. A lot of my friends were, because I believe the hype. I got caught up in, you see the stuff on TV, and like Fox News was supposedly this super racist network that hated Black people. If you listen to anybody that was against them, and if you didn't watch CNN, or if you weren't a Democrat, there was something wrong with you. You're a liberal and you couldn't get jobs. Hollywood wouldn't hire you, and you were, something was wrong with you. And I fell into that a little bit. And, when Gutfeld reached out to me on Twitter and offered me to come on the show, I was apprehensive at first. I was like, Fox News wants me on there? Obviously, this is a setup. They want to bring me on there and try to embarrass me or look dumb or something. And I'm like, well, they picked the wrong one. Mm-hmm. And my whole thing has been to walk towards challenges, not walk away from them. And if you walk towards the fear, it's less scary. So I was like, I'll go on there one time. And I go on the show with, literally, I was waiting for him to say something like, oh, wrestling's fake, or am I gonna have a Dr. D David Schultz moment right here where I gotta, like put hands on a little guy? Like, I didn't really know what was gonna happen. Yeah. And basically asked me my opinion. I think it was a Royal Grande. She was stealing donuts with her boyfriend. I think that was the story that he gave.
Oh yeah. No, she was licking the donuts.
Licking the donuts and putting them back.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, taste test has significantly changed since I was a kid. They used to have little samples on the thing with it, but I guess when you're her, you can just lick stuff and put it back. So made a couple jokes, went into our commercial break, and he was like, man, you're funny, man. He's like, your timing is great. He's like, if you lived in New York, I'd bring you back. I'd make you a co-host. And I was like, well, I don't live in New York, and I'm not going to live in New York. And he was like, what about once a month? And I was like, well, I got bookings and TNA, and I'm not really sure, but yeah, I'll try. Like, sure, and I appreciate it. And it was kind of fun. It was like, wow, he just asked me my opinion. I made a smart ass answer, and we didn't have an audience yet or anything, but the other guests laughed, and I was like, I'll do it again. It didn't hurt. There was no lynch mob waiting for me when I walked in the building. So, and I came back, I think a month later. I did another one. And then I think it was the fourth appearance where everything went wrong. My suitcase got lost. So I was on the show with a t-shirt and a pair of shorts, which is never good. Not that I've dressed to the nines and stuff, but and he wanted to talk about, I believe it was the Sterling incident that happened in New Orleans. It was a police brutality accusation with a brother, and he got into it with police officers, and of course it was being blown up as all cops are racist and bad and stuff. And it was the last thing that I wanted to talk about. At the time, I think I had just started filming Preacher, and I was like, I don't want any parts of this. This is going to kill my career. And then he basically said, if you don't, who will? He threw it back at me, and I sat on it because I had been on both sides of it. I have unfortunately have some horrible experiences with police officers, but I've had 90% of them have all been positive, and they've helped me. And I've been in situations where I've had a flat tire, or something went wrong, and the officer's like, hey, I got, what do you need, young man? I've been pulled over, and I've been, hey, you need to slow down, have a good night. So I've been on that side of it. And then of course I had the two instances with bad apples. So I really was conflicted. Plus, unfortunately, whenever a Black man talks about the police, or politics, we're supposed to fall in a certain box. And if we're outside of the box, we're not just disagreed with, our culture is taken from us. We're no longer Black anymore. There's something wrong with us. So with that influence, I was really thinking about just skipping the show and just be like, I'll catch the next one. I'll just stick to the celebrities licking donut stories. I don't want any drama. But a buddy of mine, Joe Scaturo, who was like kind of like helping me manage my stuff, and he was like, why don't you interview some cops? Why don't you talk to some police officers? And if you don't like what they have to say, then go out and just say it. Like say what you think.
Yeah.
So I interviewed a few. I talked to 3 different police officers, and it was all and from different walks, different backgrounds, different races, as a matter of fact. And one was a woman. And I got some stuff off my chest, and we just had some real conversations. And then I went on TV, and I felt like I went through the show, and I was like, I'm just going to speak it, and I just said it. I didn't hold back, and basically finished with, when you're resisting arrest, you're not Rosa Parks, you're a criminal. And that episode went viral, and it was everywhere. It was bigger than any Fox News story that week. And Greg said, I need you here every week. And he's like, you have a voice, you need to use it. He's like, it's not just jokes, you gotta, and you don't have to, no one is ever going to tell you, and this is 1000% true, no one is ever going to tell you what to say at Fox News, what to think. You don't have to agree with me. You don't, because he's like, you don't know a lot of things. And that's the reason why you're here. You don't have to, you're never going to be given a piece of paper saying, here's your answer tonight. Or, hey, could you really push this agenda? It just doesn't happen here. And I wouldn't remember it anyways. So it was another thing in wrestling, when guys had like 7,000 things they want to do, I'd be like, bruh, just let me know out there, because I'm not remembering any of that stuff. I can remember like TV shows all day long and movie quotes, but my car keys and wrestling moves, I'm gonna forget them. And it was one of those things where, and then I realized that I had a specific voice to what I thought was brothers like myself, and like that, and people in my age demographic, and a younger thing. Then this phenomenon started happening, because it was a lot of brothers who were like, wouldn't openly admit to being Republican, which is stupid, but they would come up to me like, hey man, keep the good fight, bro, I really appreciate it. Because pretty much anyone who's making serious money kind of ends up being a Republican. I mean, because you want less taxes, you want smaller government, you want people out of your pocket. So that's kind of a thing. And but then it was older women, older ladies, especially older white ladies, stopping me in the street saying, hey, I loved what you said the other night. And I was like, what? Because usually it used to be, when my big tattooed self came walking up, they went the other directions. I mean, they literally, if they drove up with me at a stoplight, I could hear the click, click. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'd be like, damn, for real, lady? But
now that's your fan base.
Yeah, like they come out to the point where they can rival. Like, I'm lucky because I'm a strange demographic, because I have the demographic you want to have in TV, but more so than anyone else at Fox. And then on top of that, I hate calling them grandmas, because that's not right, but it's an older group, and it's not just white ladies, but it's older women that not just say, hey, we love the show. In a sense, and I made a joke the other day, because it wasn't really a joke, I made a statement. It used to be, Tyrus, I love the Greg Gutfeld Show. I love when you're on there. You're so funny. We like you. We like what you say. Like, you stand up for it. Yeah. Now it's, Tyrus, I love you. And it's like, excuse me? And oh, thanks for watching. Because my answer is always, thanks for watching. Like, oh, thanks for watching. Now it's, okay, thank you. And, and then it's like, and they're proud of me, and, they like what I say. But at first, it was kind of funny to me, but then it was like, you know what, man, if the old school generation respects what you're saying, that means you had work ethic, and then you're thinking things out, and you're not just saying things to seem cool. And I'm not just taking a side to get attention. Sometimes you got to say the wrong thing, because, especially with President Trump, some of the things he said was straight stupid. And I would stand up if I didn't like something. I was dead against how he talked about the NFL players. I was not cool with that at all. And I didn't try to pretend I was. I did not answer it. I came out with it. And sometimes no one should follow anyone blind. No one should. The tribal thing is stupid. It doesn't work. Living in a box sucks. You have to have an exchange ideas, and you can have 2 thoughts in your head. And we need to get back to that, because most of us have 2 thoughts in our head. Most of us don't wake up every morning and go, what should my Republican self do today? We don't think in those terms. Usually most of us think about politics when it's time for us to vote.
And that's it.
And that's it.
You're right. Here in the US, it's like, if you're either with us or you're against us. You're on the blue team or you're on the red team, and that's it.
because we got caught up. One of the downsides of having a reality TV star for a president, and that's what President Trump was, his number one show on NBC where he was firing everybody, that persona became him, even though that's a persona he played, and he does a lot of other things, and then if you weren't with him, you were against him. And then it kind of became, because he was so polarized and because the media had the camera on him every day, it rivaled sporting events, and politics became sports. And it became transparent because everything he did was under a microscope. And it kind of backfired on the mainstream media because that also put other politicians under the microscope. I always say, the tweets or whatever, the policies, he was the most transparent president we ever had because he was always in front of the camera and he never ran from the camera, even when there was times that he should have just not, but he did it anyways. But that made everybody pay attention. All of a sudden, senators and congressmen who've kind of been able to just go about messing over Americans, whether it's Republican or Democrat, voting for themselves, taking money from special interests, and the only time we really hear from them is when they're running for election. And that stuff got exposed.
Yeah.
So, and then the media made it a team sport. Like you can't have two thoughts. You can't be a Republican and support the Dolphin Project, which I belong to. You can't care about the environment and be a Republican. Who said that? That's not how Americans are. That's not how we are. It's just we fall in the box, and then we get the extremes. You get the extreme left and the extreme right. They're the only ones getting airtime.